Are you ready? Stand by.
Hey, how's it going? Welcome to another Match Recon episode. I'm Dave Hartman, your host here. And today we have a special match, the Industry Choice Team Challenge. And this is kind of a departure from what we normally talk about. But as I've discovered, as I get farther into the firearms industry, there are many different opportunities for shooting that come up along the way. And for me, it's all about the shooting. And our special field correspondent, Bryan Ray, shares that opinion with me. So that's one thing that Bryan and I have bonded on, and because of that, he hit me up before he went to the Industry Team Challenge, and he said, "Dave, would you like a match recon done on this?" And I was like, "Yeah, dude, absolutely," because there are so many people involved in this match that we know from the three-gun world. You know, your Andy Horner, your David Power, the Nick and Nate Noble from Rockcastle Shooting Center, and that's just a lot of staff behind the match. When you get into like the shooters, the manufacturers, the sponsors that support this, including the people that submitted their items to be evaluated for the Industry Choice Awards, it's pretty comprehensive. So I thought you guys would be interested in this. I thought you would like this episode, and I think I am right. So, so enjoy this one with Bryan Ray. And as always, thank you for being a patron. Bryan, welcome back to the Three Gun Show.
Hey Dave, thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Dude, I'm glad to talk to you. You know, we've shot together quite a bit this year, and this is the first time that we've been apart doing an interview since like the first time we chatted. So like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it's been a while. I guess last time we saw you was here in Kentucky at the team match, and being one of the match directors, I had a little bit on my plate and didn't have a lot of time to catch up with you.
Yeah, I kept trying to start a conversation with you, and you kept shouting, "Beat it, boy, you're bothering me," and the best foghorn leghorn impression that you can do.
I say.
Well, Bryan, I hate to put you on the spot here, but I just remembered a story. So we shot the Shooter Source or the Vortex Shooter Source 3-gun championship in Crescent. We shot that together, like on the same team, which was a ton of fun. And that first day was a little bit cold, and I don't think you came to from Kentucky to Texas thinking it might be a little chilly. So you actually had some great day two apparel, and I've told this story a bunch of times. And I'm going to ask you, so what was the amount of what was the apparel that you guys had for day two? And feel free to tell as much of the story as you want.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't do a proper match recon on the weather in Crescent, Texas in April. I'm going to blame that on you for not including the temperatures in your match recon stats from now on.
Sorry about that.
But fortunately, Dave and Amy Horn, after that first day when we froze our butts off, they said, "Hey, we're going to run to Target and try to round up some sweatshirts." Of course, I didn't even know if you can find sweatshirts in April because I'll be honest, I don't shop.
In Texas, for God's sake, right?
Exactly. So they run to Target, and Amy texts me and says, "Hey, they have sweatshirts for like $4." And I said, "Great." I think she got them for almost everybody on the squad. Probably not you, though. But
no, because I had a sweatshirt.
Unfair advantage. Well, so she brings the sweatshirt back, and I'm thinking it's just this big plain gray sweatshirt, and I've got a closet full of sweatshirts at home, so obviously I don't necessarily need this one after this weekend. And what better way to decorate my match apparel, which I'm not going to shoot in because I've got a jersey, and besides, I'm sure if I tried to shoot in a sweatshirt, I'm going to end up with some of it shoved into the loading port on my shotgun. So what better way to decorate this match apparel than with a big phallic symbol? And I happen to have a magic marker. So our squad was accompanied by one more dick on the next day, and And we got done with the match. I threw the sweatshirt in the trash and came home.
Nice. Can you imagine someone going through the trash like, hey, this sweatshirt looks brand new?
I should have put it on the back. Maybe they'd never see it.
Yeah. Awesome. I've told that story like half a dozen times already because, God, when you showed me, I was like almost crying. I was laughing so hard. But
Well, we all have our limits, and my limit is $8 on a sweatshirt. If it had been an $8 sweatshirt, I would not have defaced it, and I would have brought it home, and I'd still wear it when it's cold out. But nah, $4 sweatshirt, that's disposable.
yeah, that's a good point. When you think about like a rain poncho that you'd buy at Walmart and then discard, those things are about $3. So you go $4 for a sweatshirt, and that makes total sense.
Exactly. Sure, I guess. However we can justify it.
Yeah, exactly. Some sort of cognitive bias there, I'm sure that the audience can tell us. But well, Bryan, glad to have you back here. And you know what? You are, sir, a special field correspondent for the 3-Gun Show. You shot a pretty cool match, and before you did that, you're like, "Hey, Dave, would you want to match Recon in this?" And the answer was absolutely.
Well, and I asked because this is only the second year of this event, and it is such a different format from top to bottom from almost everything else that you cover on the 3-Gun Show.
Right.
So I thought that it would probably hit home with a lot of your audience that's not even aware that this type of event goes on.
Yeah, and I totally agree on that. And it involves a lot of the people that we know, a lot of people that have been on the show, like tons of 3-gunners, manufacturers that support our sport of 3-gun.
Yeah,
it involves
a lot of them. Almost all of the manufacturers there were included in that group.
Yeah, and of course it's at the Rockcastle Shooting Center, which are great friends. And the other thing would be that I actually had an episode 130 where David Power was on, and he told us about the Industry Choice Awards, and that was something that I got to participate in. And this is the Industry Team Challenge, which is like the sister sort of event to the Industry Choice Awards.
I'd forgotten all about you were one of the evaluators at the ICAs, and that is cool because we actually, as competitors for this, we were able to use a good portion of the gear that you spent 2 or 3 days evaluating.
Yeah, it was pretty cool watching the pictures scroll by on Facebook that Rockcastle put out and seeing like, oh yeah, I remember that one, I remember that one, I remember that one.
Yeah, that was a part of it, I guess, when you compare what we normally do to this, that's the it's the benefit and it's kind of the kick in the shin of using all of this gear that you've never shot before. You get to pick it up and fondle it for a couple minutes right after the stage brief, and then you're expected to use it, on the clock for scores. So
nice.
It makes it a little challenging, but on the same hand, we got to shoot some gear that I probably would never have the opportunity or the in some cases the desire to shoot otherwise.
Yeah, that's the way I felt too. Like I think there was a couple bolt rifles that I never thought to pick up and look at, but once they were there on the table for evaluation, obviously I was compelled to pick them up and to shoot them and everything, and they actually ended up being a lot of fun. So I can't wait to hear how they performed in the match there.
I think of course I can tell you how they performed in the match, at least for our team. And then I think Recoil Magazine is going to have a multi-page article on the ICAs from the evaluation process all the way through the award process and those winners of different categories in one of their upcoming issues.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we'll be looking forward to that, and I will be picking up Recoil as usual to check it out. But Bryan, let's get into it, man. So what match did you shoot?
This was the 2017 Industry Team Challenge, and for the people who have been around this game and the firearms industry for several years, they may remember the old Shooting Industry Masters that was put on by NSSF. Mm-hmm. That ended, I think, in 2015. And it was such a fun format that David Power and the guys at Rockcastle and probably some others that I'm not aware of got together and formed the idea for the Industry Choice Awards, which is what you participated in evaluating products submitted by manufacturers, all on their own merits, without any enticement of sponsorship dollars or advertising, or it's completely anonymous. Everything is just evaluated straight up, and ultimately, winners are picked. But it involves the ICAs, which I think we're in May, and then the Industry Team Challenge, which is kind of the culmination of the whole event here last weekend.
Yeah, and I think that's a very important point that you made there, is without any sort of bias. From my understanding, and granted, I wasn't a part of the old Industry Masters, but it was sort of like a unspoken, whoever contributes the most wins the prize. When in this thing, the Industry Choice Awards, there is no way to contribute as a company. It's all done independently. The volunteers are there for evaluation on their own volition. Food's provided. That's pretty much it. And we weren't even allowed to say beforehand that we were going to go do it. I had to get permission from the Nobles and from David Power to mention it on the show.
Yeah, I had the privilege of being on part of the ICA panel last year, and of course it was the first year, and there were some things along the way that had to be kind of adjusted and corrected, but same thing. We didn't tell anybody we were going beforehand. I got there, I was able to speak my mind, both good and bad, about products that I'd never seen, some of which I was very familiar, and even a couple that maybe some of my sponsors had sent, that things that I might not be willing to tell more than one or two guys face to face. And now I'm able to write it down on a form. But hey, you all need to change this, or this is really great, and this is set yourself out amongst the market. So the anonymous factor of this thing is incredible. I remember one product in particular, and I'm not going to name the manufacturer, but it was I'm having a hard name coming up for it other than turd, and that's not something. I know people that work at that company, but it's not something I'm going, hey guys, y'all really came out with a turd here. But I was able to put that on the form because I wasn't worried about them being pissed every time they saw me.
Yeah, or hurting their feelings. Right. And the good side of that. So I kind of try not to get too many things, and it's kind of hard when you're a three gunner and a podcaster for a living, because there's a lot of things involved in those. But there was actually a couple products there, and I want to say two that I can recall off the top of my head that I was like, I would purchase that. I would pay. If Brown Ales had free shipping, I would buy one of those right there.
Well, this year at the match, one of the rifles that I would probably never have the opportunity or even desire to shoot otherwise was a Ruger American in 450 Bushmaster.
Dude, that is the exact rifle when I was talking about bolt actions a minute ago that I would never, ever pick up in a store. Never, not once.
Well, the stage we shot it on was a hunting stage, and we can get there because it's a really cool idea that Andy Horner came up with. But so you've got four guns, you got four guys on your team, and it's as a team, it's to decide who's going to shoot what. And most of the time, I kind of sit back and I let my team talk. And if somebody says, "Hey, what do you want to shoot?" I'll say it, or when we start strategizing, I'll offer my opinion. But as soon as they show that one, I say, "Guys, I'm going to shoot that." And I've always liked big bullets, and there's something about that little short fat case. That's just a cool round.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I kind of ridiculed it a little bit when scoffed maybe, like, what the heck is this? And once we shot it, man, it was a ton of fun, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. There's some of those opportunities. You're like, wow, I'm glad I did this. If nothing else, just because I never would have experienced that.
Yeah, for sure. Gets you out of your comfort zone a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, but back to the match. The match was the 21st and 22nd of this month, July, and is held at Rockcastle Shooting Center. That's a place very near to my heart, just because it's so close to the house for one, and they have so many great events, and I think everybody, even if they've never been there before, they're treated like that the cousin, and I'm not talking about Cousin Eddie when you pull up in the parking lot with your RV, but yeah, they're just treated like family. So It's always great shooting a match there, and this one didn't disappoint either.
Yeah, it's a great venue for sure.
Yeah, the match was a points match, but the stages, because they're all different types of shooting, had different point values, I think. I guess we may as well get into that here. So we're
Sure.
coming from the 3-gun show, and we generally talk about 3-gun. And with 3-gun, we have printed rule sets, and we have all of this preconceived ideas of how a match is going to be run and scored and awards posted and arbitration period and all of that. Well, this is not a 3-gun match. So we're told up front that we're going to be shooting 8 different types of stages. I'm going off memory, so I'm going to miss something. There was one 3-gun stage single. There was one 3-gun stage relay. There was a thing called pistol XS. There was another pistol-only stage, sporting clays, trap, and a long-range stage. And I'm missing one. Oh, and the hunting stage. And other than that, we're told that on each stage brief, we're told of whether it's a time stage with penalties for misses, or if it's a points-only stage and you only have a maximum par time. We're also told beforehand that scores will not be published. The top 3 winners will be announced, and other than that, there are no scores to be visible by the public.
Okay, so that's unusual compared to what we normally talk about here. So why is that?
It's unusual because we also have a unusual group of competitors at this competition, and that is so many industry personnel in attendance. Going back to the old shooting industry masters, the idea that has been carried on to this is that if we can get, and I say we when I mean the match, even though I wasn't affiliated with the actual match staff, but if we can get people from Leupold's factory and engineering department, and from Ruger's, production managers or marketing executives or finance people, if we can bring those kind of people that they may not shoot at all, they don't do it for recreation because they deal with guns all day. And if you know anybody that works in the industry, for the most part, they don't want to have anything to do with them when they get home. The same reason as my wife can't get me to change a light bulb in our house when it's out. And
you make light bulbs, is that correct?
What's that?
You make light bulbs, is that correct?
I'm an electrician, electrical contractor.
I gotcha.
So, yeah. So if we can bring those people that never pick up a gun other than possibly to do QC or engineering on one, and we can get them to come and hang out with other people within the same industry and actually have some fun shooting guns, then, so probably not the goal of getting them involved with competition shooting, but if nothing else, then they're seeing what their products are actually used for, and they're seeing that some of the people that tell them, hey, you all ought to think about doing it this way, actually know what they're talking about. So to try to help encourage those people to come out and participate in this competition, scores aren't published so that nobody has their feelings hurt. If you don't come in first and you don't come in second and you don't come in third, then we can probably all assume that the other how many ever teams that are there tied for 4th.
Nice. I like that sort of format too, and like you said, to get the people that normally wouldn't go out and see a competition, but are actually building the parts that we use. It's pretty cool too, because I've had jobs where, Brian, you're an electrician, so you can actually see at the end of the day what you did. I've had jobs where I literally move data from the right screen to the left screen, and sometimes from the left screen to the right screen. Right, and by the end of the day, you're like, well, I guess I made 4 more megabytes of data that just goes into this big pile. So I don't even know what I did. But to actually get out and see the fruits of your labor, and see how people, how enthusiasts, how your customer base is using it, is a pretty cool experience, I would imagine.
Well, that and I touched on, and you touched on how they're using it, but I also have to think from the standpoint of those people involved, those companies, they can also see how they're using it for unintended ways. Whether it's good or bad. There may be things that they see at one of these events, and they're like, well, we never considered that, but that's a great way of also marketing our product. Or they may see somebody really messing something up or tearing it up or whatever, putting it together wrong, and go, we never thought of that, but we need to fix that because that's a problem. So, whether or not publishing scores helps or hinders attendance of that group of people, I don't know. But I've never talked, other than the people who are really familiar and accustomed to how we do things in 3-gun or pistol matches, where you have the published scores and arbitration period and awards, and it's all out in the open. Other than those people that that are used to doing that, I've never heard anybody complain about how scores are done.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, so let's talk about the quick stats here then.
My computer fell asleep. Hold on. I guess we're talking too long. All right. So the quick stats. The schedule was a half a day. The first day registration or the welcoming ceremony, and I'm going to give a quick shout out to Mike Dell. I know you at the team match heard him sing the national anthem, and that has kind of become a staple at Rockcastle. Any match he's at, somebody asks him, and he is always more than happy, and just it gives me cold chills because he does a great job with our national anthem. But so national anthem was started about 10 o'clock, and then we went out and shot and finished up in half a day. And then the next morning, we shot the morning, finished up about lunchtime or so.
Okay.
Match fee was $1,600 a team. Now, that's a little bit higher than we're accustomed to.
Sounds high.
But if you show up with clothing, you're ready to shoot the match. Because they even have eyes and ears there for you. And you don't need any guns, and you don't need any ammo. So I don't know what that's worth, because I refuse to consider how much money I waste on shooting. But it's got to be worth, quite a bit.
Yeah, for sure.
We shot a lot of ammo at the match. So it's $1,600 a team. And I think there was like an early entry and a late entry, but that's all published as part of the match info.
Gotcha.
Number of shooters this year, attendance was down a little bit. I think some of that is due to the state of the industry. There were about 20 teams of 20 teams for score, and then they allowed either 4, 5, or 6 people per team. If you had 5 or 6, though, they had I don't know if they dropped the lowest 1 or 2 scores, but anyway, you weren't at any disadvantage if you only had 4 people on your team, but you could have up to 6.
Gotcha.
So about 90 shooters total.
Okay.
And then the division winners, they do have an industry and a pro division. The industry division, of course, comprises of people that actually work for the companies, and I'm not talking about like some of the sponsor shooters work for the companies in a marketing position, but actual people in accounting or people in engineering or people in product development, whatever their case. So to be an industry team, you actually have to be with the company. And then the pro side is anybody else. You don't have to be a pro shooter. Anybody that wants to show up with 3 buddies and check for $1,600 can shoot.
Well, it should be like that, right? With people that actually work at the company. It reminds me of the old Simpsons episode where Mr. Burns put together the ringer team, and he had like Ken Griffey Jr. for playing softball instead of the dudes that were actually working the reactors.
I remember that. And I've never watched Simpsons religiously, but I do remember that episode.
I did at that time for sure.
And that does provide the the opportunity for a manufacturer to put together a ringer team and put them on the pro side, and get a little bragging rights.
Absolutely.
So the Trigicon team actually came in both the first industry and high overall, I believe. And those are a group of guys from Trigicon factory. So they
awesome.
They smoked us because we came in second, which I guess would have been first pro. But can you really call us pro if we got beat by an industry team? I don't think so.
And so the team you were on was Rockcastle Shooting Center?
Yes. Rockcastle was our team. It was myself, Brian Vaught, Ben Fortin, who is another local that Ben and Brian and I used to shoot the old Three Gun Nation Pro Series back, first couple years they did that. He's an incredible shooter. He's kind of been out of the game for the last couple years, and I've kept in touch with him, called him up and said, hey, why don't you come out and have some fun with us, and bring a friend if you have one. And it took him a couple weeks, but he did find a friend. and the friend he brought is a guy that has a lot of experience shooting, but no competition. And
cool.
And the guy shot lights out. He's a great athlete and a real marksman. And we had a wonderful time, the four of us shooting together as a team.
Nice. That comment reminds me of how you guys run your team match. The no, we don't make teams. You should try to be nicer, and maybe you'll have two friends.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine how big of a problem we'd have getting teams to sign up if we had 4-man teams instead of 3.
Oh, I know. I love it. So, what other opportunities were there a part of this match?
Well, okay, so we talked about the $1,600 match fee, and we told you that the ammo's provided and the guns are provided, and you can even get free iPro, Ear Pro if you show up with nothing. Well, also included as part of this starts with the Thursday night, the reception before the match starts, and the reception was at the Bowling Green Hot Rods Minor League Baseball Stadium, 25 minutes south of Bowling Green, in a suite because it was hot. And I didn't go to the reception because I live too close to drive down there and drive home and drive back for the match. So, but talked to some people that did, and it was a reception in a suite, air conditioned suite. The minor league baseball games going on outside. People are having a good time, networking and all, and that's the reception. It wasn't a check in and here's your shooter bag and hey, wonder where everybody's hanging out tonight. It was pretty obvious because they were all at the baseball game. So
that's cool. I like that.
That was an awesome idea. The last year they did it, I think the reception was at the Corvette Museum, and if you've never been there, even if you're not a big Corvette fan, that's something worth seeing when you're in Bowling Green. But
yeah, it's pretty impressive.
This was very unique, and everybody seemed like they had a really good time. So you have that Thursday night before the match. We started shooting midday Friday. Finished up Friday, I think it was about 4 o'clock or so, maybe a little earlier. And then that night, Friday night at the lodge, they had barbecue outside and a band. And if you've seen some of the pictures, the band had a couple of ladies in it that they could really sing, and they weren't hard on the eyes either.
Yeah, I did not. The pictures didn't really portray their singing very well, but they were absolutely gorgeous. I was wondering, not from Kentucky, right?
I don't know. I didn't ask them.
Kentucky joke. I'm just kidding.
They were probably from Tennessee, but we won't hold it against them.
Makes sense.
So then, let's see. So that was Friday night. Saturday, we got up. We shot in the morning, and then Saturday, when shooting was over, they had a 4-man golf scramble. So you could take. Our team did not golf. I haven't picked up a golf club in 20-something years since I was in high school and hit something with it other than a ball. But they had the golf scramble Saturday afternoon, and then awards was Saturday evening at Convention Center in Bowling Green. Fully catered, excellent dinner. It wasn't black tie, but I did wear a collared shirt that had sleeves.
Wow.
So, that's pretty fancy for me.
Yeah, that's like your wedding anniversary and apparently this event, right?
Exactly. Yeah, but and there were probably some other things going on in the middle that I just completely missed out on. But it was a full event. It wasn't just you show up, you shoot, you wait to shoot the next day, and then you go home. So
and a couple side matches too, right?
They did. They had They had a side match to benefit I may mess this up. I think it's the Junior Heritage 2A camp. Becky Yackley, she didn't shoot the match. She came down and just ran the side match.
Yeah, that was like word soup. It's the 2A Heritage Junior Camp.
Okay. I'm not surprised at all that I got that mixed up.
That's okay.
And then they also had a really cool side match to benefit a group called Freedom Hunters using Matthews Genesis bows, which are the bows that all the NAS program uses, and aerial targets. So imagine a clay thrower, instead of throwing a 4-inch traditional shotgun clay, it throws a 8 or 10-inch foam frisbee. And you have to shoot it while it's in the air.
No kidding. Did you try that?
Addictive. It's addictive. I skinned it a couple times, and they had it last year too, and I could not connect. I think Vaught hit 1 or 2 this year, and he hit 1 or 2 last year. So I mean, there's something there about his ability to shoot moving things with a bow. I don't know where that comes from, but it's addictive. It was $10 for 10 arrows, and you put your 10 down and you shoot your 10 arrows. You're like, I got so close. I'm gonna have to do this again.
Oh man, it's like a carnival ride.
It was fun.
It sounds pretty cool. The shooting something out of the air like that with a bow, and I've never done that. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Well, it made me want to get some of because the arrows, and I'm not a bow hunter. I know very little about it, but the arrows have this specially designed fletching that allows the arrow to travel, but it quickly slows down, and then of course the tip goes toward the ground. The fletching is up, and they're brightly colored, so they're really easy to find. And it's what people use for squirrel hunting. And and as I'm shooting this at this disc in the air, I'm thinking I may have to start hunting squirrels in my backyard with a bow, 'cause this is fun.
It sounds pretty cool. It sounds kind of like lawn darts. You know, they land nose first.
We actually have one of our guys on our squad that he got tired of walking out there to pick the arrows up, so he's like, I'm just going to stay down here. And y'all don't hit me, but we didn't let him. So,
all right then. All right, Brian. So, what was the match flavor?
Again, can't compare it to a 3-gun match. There was no shotgun loading unless you missed and had to pick up the targets, or of course the sporting clays or 5-stand where you load without any concern for how long it takes you to.
Mm-hmm.
Each of the stages tested very specific different skills with rifle, pistols, and shotguns. Completely different from what we're generally used to, other than 3-gun stages. But the flavor of this match really is just a networking opportunity for industry professionals and the people who would shoot in the pro shooter, whether they're actual pros or not, to just be able to get together and enjoy a couple days on the range with gear that we don't have to buy.
Probably a good excuse for like team building, right? So instead of going and renting a cabin out in the woods and talking about your feelings, now you're shooting and enjoying each other's company.
I can't see how a cabin in the woods talking about your feelings improves anything about your job function.
Again, I got that from The Simpsons. I really don't know.
But I'm sure there would be some people that would argue, and probably rightfully so. But yeah, you take, especially you figure some of the guys from one company that may not have any experience or exposure to products from other companies, and now you're putting these other products in their hands. They're like, wow, I really like how they've done this. And I'm sure there's a lot of this that goes on at the factory, but right. In that type of setting, you're going to be limited also to what you get to do with it and how you get to use it versus you're now stuck out here in a field and you're just looking at it in a different direction. So I have to think that would be a lot more beneficial for a group of people from any manufacturer getting together and going out and doing this than, like you said, sitting in a cabin talking about your feelings. Unless you have a lot of feelings to talk about. Me, I don't. I have feeling. So
hungry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back where I used to work, I worked with a bunch of engineers, and there was this lady engineer who said that all the guys in the office had either hunger or anger as feelings and nothing else, which was kind of hilarious.
And very true, which is why they said it.
Yeah, and sometimes you find yourself being angry just because you're hungry, right? So
Yeah, a little hangry then.
yeah. So Brian, the next one we usually cover is terrain. Obviously a little different in this sort of match, but where give us an idea of like what the shooting areas were like. I imagine not all of this was done in a bay stage, right?
No, they didn't. They had a couple of stages that probably could have been in bays, but they didn't use any of them because of logistics of traveling one stage to the next. We had the long-range rifle stage with targets out to 450 yards in Thunder Valley. And then the three-gun stages, one of those was using the tobacco barn. Anybody that's been to Rockcastle shot in, out of, or shot the tobacco barn itself. And I think we shot out to 200 or so on it. And then another stage that was natural terrain, the traditional natural terrain three-gun in the woods, shooting out of the woods into a field at some steel out to 150 or so. And then, of course, the sporting clays. I've never, other than this match, the match last year, and the old Trigicon shooting challenge that was held at Rockcastle, I've never shot sporting clays. But every time I do it, I'm like, wow, this is really fun, and I should do it more often.
Yeah.
Rockcastle's got a sporting clays course that snakes in and out of the woods that are at the part of the property they call Cedar Point, for those that are familiar with it. And it's just it's a beautiful setting for sporting clays and mostly shady. So, you do it when the sun's up, you don't bake. But that we had that one, and then we had the five stand is their traditional five stand stage that's right there at that little pond as you pull in by the red barn. So
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's
plenty of terrain to look at.
That little pond area is like on the backside of where the bays are, right?
No. This is the pond that's way down the road.
Oh.
They use this area a lot for the long range matches, the Mammoth Sniper and the long range series they're doing now, because you can shoot from this area, kind of where this pond is. You can shoot across like 4 different fields out to 850 yards or something. But that's where this pond is. It's set up just as a permanent five stand location.
I gotcha. And so for someone who hasn't been to Rockcastle Shooting Center in Kentucky, obviously the short answer is get down there and check it out because your mind will be blown. But how would you describe Thunder Valley?
It is approximately 300 yards wide and about 1,100 or 1,200 yards long. And it's a shallow valley with the bottom of the valley doesn't run right down the middle. It runs toward one side, the side opposite the road. So essentially it's kind of like the biggest pistol bay in the world with trees around it.
I like it. That's a great way to describe it for sure.
Somebody's going to email you. They're like, no, in fact, by Google Earth calculations, the largest pistol bay is at whatever range. But, I've never been there, so.
Prove Brian wrong. No, that's a great way to describe it. And, center is, what, like, I guess you'd call it wild grass. I don't know. Do you call it?
Yeah, it's mostly broom sage and grown-up fescue. And whenever they set a match up, they decide where they're going to set the long-range targets. They go out there and they mow a 20 or 25-foot circle, put the target right in the middle, move on and mow again for the next target. So the whole field, I think they only mow it like twice a year, but maybe it's once a year. I can't remember. But anyway, wherever you want to put targets, you've got a big ridge behind them that catches any rounds from leaving the range, if you want to call it a range, and as long as you don't have fire going toward another stage, there's a lot of times when they set the targets out, they have a crossfire in a general area, but it's an impact area, so you can't go out there anyway.
Right. And so when you mentioned the tobacco barn, it's pretty much at like the entrance to Thunder Valley, right? And it is literally just a barn that's slowly deteriorating. Probably used to hold tobacco by the name.
No, actually, in fact, it does still hold tobacco.
Oh.
The Blue Ridge Mountain match, I don't remember if this last year it had tobacco in it or not, but a lot of times it has tobacco in the barn hanging, and and Andy will move the hanging tobacco out of the way enough that you got a path coming through it to be able to get to the shooting positions, and just it creates one more obstacle. And then
no way.
I've lived in Kentucky all my life, and my grandfather's family actually raised tobacco, and I've helped strip tobacco, and nothing weird for me, but some people, they get in there like, what is this stuff?
Yeah. Well, that just goes to show my naivete in that sort of area. Like, I had no idea that tobacco was hung in there. I would have expected it like on the ground, like, hey,
No, we're getting way out of the Three Gun Show's realm of knowledge, but
that's what we do.
So you gotta dry it, and the best way to dry it is to put it in a barn that has some natural ventilation, but keeps all the rain off of it. And I think generally they hang tobacco and let it dry about 2.5, 3 months, and then you go through a process called stripping it and remove all the leaves and segregate the leaves into what kind of type of leaf they are, and then you sell it. So.
All right. Well, clears that up. Now I know why they call it the tobacco barn.
Where were we?
Where were we? Yeah, well, that's right. I thought we were just like BSing on the phone here for a minute. So, tell me about the skills utilized in the match.
There were very few difficult shots. We generally, with match recon, we try to learn as much as we can about the previous year's matches for a specific event, and we practice either long range slugs, or we practice a lot of shotgun loading, or long range rifle, or quick and dirty fast rifle, whatever the match flavor tends to be. 5-inch plates out to 25 yards with a pistol, because there's no pistol paper maybe. Well, with this match, there's not really any difficult shots, but when your team has read the brief, they're usually really wide open, other than the sequence, and now it's your turn to analyze. Okay, what guns are we using on this stage? Who within our team has experience with this particular kind of gun, or maybe owns one? But a couple of the stages we shot Knicks on. Pat Kelly calls it a Jonic because he knows how they actually say it, and I'm a Kentucky redneck. But
yeah, I call them Canics.
Okay,
so we got Knick, Jonics.
Well, we shot those on a couple stages, and Vought.
These are pistols, by the way.
What's that?
I said these are pistols, by the way.
Yeah, it actually won the handgun of the year in the ICA, the SFX.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, congratulations to Century on that. That's awesome. But we used them on a couple stages, and Vaught's been shooting one. I think he shot at that 5K that was here a couple months ago, and he shot it at a few locals and different events. And so, we get to this one stage, and we're like, well, here's the Knick, and that'll be the fourth shooter or whatever it is. And we're like, Vaught, you're shooting here. You've got more time on this gun than any of the rest of us total. So you're here. So there's a lot of strategy in that respect, from just knowing your teammates and what they're comfortable of, or what they're good at, and what they're not good at. We stuck Vaught on the shotgun slugs on the 3-gun relay stage also, because he usually shoots slugs pretty well. And,
right. And
we were glad we did so after the fact, because the shotgun was not the best platform for slugs. And everybody on every team that shot slugs, you could tell it, because they all had a bruise on their cheek.
Oh, yeah?
So that's a big thing there. The skills utilized is not so much of anything in particular, other than really good marksmanship fundamentals. It's knowing your team, communicating with your team, and making decisions, and not second guessing on who's doing what.
Right. And that's something that we've talked about before on I guess maybe one of the other match recons about the team matches is trying to feel each other out for your strengths and your weaknesses, and be honest about, like, can I handle slugs, or should I go ahead and use the bow and arrow in this case, Yeah.
The one stage in particular was called one shoot and move, or one shot, and I don't remember, something like that. And the stage description there is you have your 4 guys, you have 4 sets of different colored targets. I think each color only had 3 targets, and the stage description was that on the start, the first shooter moves to the shooting box 1, fires only 1 round at his color of choice, and must move to shooting box 2 to fire only 1 round of the same color to go back to box 3. Now, when he gets back to box 3, if he's got the hit on the target the first time, he can shoot his last one, and then he can tag his teammate. If he doesn't, he has to shoot at the same target again. And if he hits it, he can proceed. And if he misses again, he's got to go back over to the other box, fire around at a big steel gong they put in the middle, just as a placeholder, and then come back to do it again. And that was one where we, on our team, it was myself, Vaught, Ben, and the other guy, the one and only friend. No, I'm kidding there. The friend that Ben brought, his name was Ren, R-E-N. And that's where all 4 of us are primarily plastic pistol shooters. Glocks for me, Ben, and Ren, and then Vaught, of course, shoots a SIG. And we've got to use a STI DVC, I think is DVC Tactical, maybe was the model. So we're looking at it, we're like, well, Ren specifically says, I've never shot anything to speak of other than a Glock. So we're like, all right, you're going to shoot the biggest plates. And then Vaught shot the other plates that were that size, and then Ben picked up one, and I said, I used to shoot a lot of 1911s. I'll take the little skinny ones. And they were skinny Sammys at like 12 yards maybe, which isn't that difficult of a target if you have no concern for number of follow-up shots. But you really the splits, it's like I've watched the video, and the video feels like it's so slow because I get to the box and I set up and I bring the gun up and I breathe, and then I prep the trigger, and then finally the gun goes off, and you're like, that's the slowest split in the world. Well, it's because it's going to take me 10 seconds to get back here. If I miss this one shot and have to make up this one shot, it's going to take me 10 seconds to go do what I have to do before I can come back to do it again.
Yep.
So, that's a case where you just got to talk about what you feel comfortable with, your teammates, what they want to do, what they feel comfortable doing, and then come up with a plan. So, our last run on that stage, we shot it clean. Each one of us, all 4 of us, went 3 for 3. So that felt pretty good. I don't know where it came out. We'll call it a stage win because we hadn't seen scores.
Yeah. No one can prove you wrong, right? All right. So then what was the farthest shot and number of long-range targets?
Farthest shot was 450 yards, and it was on the long-range stage. We had a F1 Firearms in 6.5 Creedmoor, and then we had another F1 in 308. And they had 2 positions. They had a prone and a kneeling, and I didn't see anybody take the kneeling because the way it worked, it was all points-based. And if you went to the kneeling position, you did not have to shoot as far for the high-value target as the prone. But it wasn't that much different, so about everybody, I think, shot prone. But the 6.5, and then of course, because the targets you had 4. I'm going to have to back up a little because this is confusing for those that weren't there.
Sure.
So the 450 yard was worth 5 points, I think, and then there was a 400 that was only worth 4, and then a 3 something that was worth 3 points, and then a mid threes, and then like a 310 that was worth 2 points, and then there was a 200-yard target that was only worth 1. So if you don't feel good about yourself and you want to shoot the close target to pick up some smaller point values, you can, or you can go big or go home and shoot the 450. And the 6.5 was a laser beam. They gave you the drops. They had to chart it for the 300 or for the 308. Here's what your reticle looks like on every target. For the 6.5, here's
cool.
what your reticle look like on every target. So assuming the rifles are zeroed and assuming the dope is right, then it's kind of point and click. But so I was at 450 on that one, and then I think the 3-gun stages we shot at to about 2 on the one, the relay, and then about 150 maybe on the single. And then the hunting stage, I think the far target was about 250 yards with a 30-06 bolt-action hunting rifle. And then that same hunting stage, we had other targets that were from maybe 80 to 200. And there were numerous of those. Of course, it was a relay, so one shooter only shot a specific number of targets. So I didn't shoot the bolt act, the 30-06. I shot the 450 Bushmaster. So I only shot 3 targets at from like 80 to maybe 120.
Right.
So kind of confusing. The number of targets doesn't mean that's the number of rounds that an individual shooter fired.
Right. I gotcha. All right. So how was logistics?
The registration process was through a form rather than practical registration. Piece of cake, no problem. And then check-in was, back up a little bit. There was good email communication pre-match. They did have a late change for the venue for the reception. I can't remember where it was supposed to be. In a couple days before the match, they changed it to the minor league baseball game. So they emailed that out to everybody and said, hey, same town. I think it's just down the street, and now we're going to see a baseball game instead of just hang out. So email communication was real good. Check-in process at the match took all of 30 seconds. You walked up, you said, hey, I'm so-and-so. My team's here. They said, well, does anybody on your team, if you hadn't signed a waiver, the traditional waiver, if you hadn't signed in the last year, here you go. And you're done. Yeah, they had a little bit of swag. I think they had some stickers. They had koozies from Century Arms, provided koozies for your choice of soda drink or adult beverage. And then I think they had some catalogs sitting out. So simple check-in. Scoring, we've talked about. I don't know how it worked out. We came in second.
Nice.
So, and then prize table, they give trophies to the first place team, and they sold raffle tickets for a few of the items, and all of the remaining items that you all used as part of the evaluation for the Industry Choice Awards. They passed out a white ticket to every shooter when they came into the banquet at awards, and essentially they treated all those remaining items as a one-man, not team related, but just single shooter prize table random draw. So, I don't remember who the first couple guys that got drawn were, but they were certainly celebrating as they were walking up to look at this table. I think they had 3 of those SIG Kilo rangefinders that are Bluetooth enabled and track the movement of the sun, and they probably know when the target you're looking at took its last bow movement. I don't know. They're amazing. But those are all sitting on the table. So that's how the prize table. I hate to call it a prize table because that would signify that it's an award for something, and this was just a random draw table. So.
Right. Which still a prize, right? Like just random prize table, random draw.
It is. It's the prize of being good at being random.
Yeah, and I think for this kind of match, probably makes sense to do it that way. I know I've heard a lot of heartburn in the past from people that are like, "Oh, that's bullshit," but usually it's only the guys that are going to come in 1st through 5th that claim that. So,
well, that's a whole nother discussion.
We should have that discussion sometime. It'll be fun.
I would be glad to, but you'll probably want to morph my voice because my feelings on it is probably not popular with that group that and I've won a lot of cool stuff over the years, and it either gets stuck in the back of my safe or it gets sold. So what value does that offer to those companies that donate it to a match?
Yeah.
Not much. So, but yeah, that's how it worked here.
Cool.
It was random. And otherwise, I guess you'd have to tell the manufacturers, hey, you got to send 4 of everything because we're going to, if we award it to a team, then, they're going to have to figure out how to split this up. So, no, it did. It worked really well for that format. And they had enough product there that everybody that got a white ticket for being a competitor walked up there.
Hey, that's cool. Mm-hmm. All right, so let's talk venue. Obviously, Rockcastle Shooting Center.
Andy Horner, of course, was match director again this year. He did it last year, and Andy's got a lot of experience directing matches, and he's got a lot of experience directing matches at Rockcastle. And the first couple years of Blue Ridge were a bit of a painful learning curve because of having stages in just incredible locations on the property that you have no hope of getting to if it rains. And one of them, actually, sidebar, I think it was the last year, it was in April when it got rained out again. He told the ROs to go to the stages, and if people show up, to run them. But things were it was too nasty to assume everybody's going to be able to shoot everything. So that's why they had to call it. Well, he calls Brian Vaughn. He's like, why aren't you at your stage? Because Brian and I worked this every year. It's been Kentucky. And Brian goes, Andy, I went out there, and it's a lake. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, I'm telling you that the shooting position is under about a foot of water, and the long-range targets, you can't even see them because they're under. They're gone. And this field, they called it the General's Field. I don't think anybody's used it for anything other than hunting since this match because you have this problem as it rains. And this field, what was a field the day before is now like a 3 or 4 acre lake. So
that's crazy.
It was awesome. I mean, to see it, you look at it. I went out there with him to look at it. I'm like, wow, this is incredible. So after those type of experiences, all of the stages were pulled in close enough to good enough roads that, even if it had rained and we had a muddy mess, there wouldn't have been a problem with people getting there and shooting stages and, getting in and out. So
right. Well, that's good to know.
The sporting clays was awesome because where their course is, they have a path it looks like a golf cart path, except it's a little rougher, cut through the woods. It winds in and out. And when you start your sporting clay stage, you come up to a table and they tell you pick out 2 shotguns for your team to use and go down that way. And you hop on a golf cart and you drive down this little path. And when you come to a sporting clays, I don't know what a stand,
station?
A hole, stage. I don't know what
station.
There's like 5 of station. That'd be a good name. When you come to the station, you hop off your golf cart, hopefully put it in park, and then you shoot that station, all 4 of your team members, and then you hop back on your 2 golf carts and you go to the next one, and you go to the next one, and you go to the next one. So it's just like golf in that respect. We probably drive. Well, I don't know. I've seen some crazy golfers too. We probably don't drive faster than them, but. Yeah, that was really neat just because you're winding in and out of these woods, and you pull up to a station, you get off, you shoot, you get back on, you move on. So
plus golfers are drinking too, so they get out of control.
Yeah, and that's the nice thing about. Even though we like to have fun after we're done, I've never seen anybody that has even thought about trying to crack one early. So
yeah,
we don't have to worry about that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was really neat, just that setting of, we've shot this one, let's move on to the next one. So and then let's see, we talked about the 3D archery. I'm looking at my notes too. I'm sorry.
Sure, no, that's fine.
My computer is not asleep at this point. Oh, the 3D archery targets with steel. So the hunting stage.
Tell me about that.
You got 4 positions. And you're told this at the walkthrough, you got 4 positions. From each position, you have 3 targets. Position 1 is from a deer blind that's on a tripod stand. So it's like 15 foot up in the air, looking out across this field. They tell you which targets are. Now, when you look across this field, you're looking at about, I'm going to say, 30 3D archery target animals. I mean, the full-blown animal. There's a bear out there standing on his back legs with his front paws up in the air like he's going to eat you.
And that's like full size?
He's full size.
Huh.
He's a smaller bear. Maybe he's only 6.5 foot tall. He's not 9, but he's full size. There's rams or doll sheep. I mean, there were animals out there when the ROs were talking. They're reading the brief, and they're like, from this position, you're going to engage the doll sheep. And I'm like, what's a doll sheep? I mean, I've seen them on Discovery Channel, but I've never hunted them. So they'd be like, they're the ones right there with the curly horns. Oh, okay, I got it. So, you from the deer blind, you shoot 3 out to 250 or whatever. Then you have a log, and from the log position, you have to shoot 3 animals. From the tree, you have to shoot 3 animals, and from the last position, which was prone, you have to shoot 3 animals. And each position has to be from a different teammate. Each position is with a different rifle. And you have to move as a team from position 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. So everybody has to be present before the shots can be taken.
Mm-hmm.
And so what they did on these archery targets, because if you shoot them with a gun, they're foam. They don't do anything.
Just goes right through, right?
Exactly. Unless you take out the core in the kill zone, which is made for the arrow to be able to stick in, and you pull the arrow back out. If you take that core out, now you have a hole all the way through that target.
Right.
And what they did is they set MGM steel targets out not inside the animal, but just behind the animal enough so that when you're looking at the animal, looking through his kill zone, you see a steel target, and when you hit it, the RO can call a hit on that steel. Nice.
I was looking at your notes and I was thinking, like, God, how do they, when you talk about the energy and the impact, how do they keep the foam target from blowing apart, and how do they keep it from knocking over? But that's pretty cool. It just goes right through and hits it on the other side.
Yeah, impacts the steel that is on the backside of the animal. One of them, the bear, was actually like 120 yards behind the bear, because the bear is right at the log as if it's gonna eat you. And you can't shoot steel with I think that was a 308 from that position. You can't shoot steel at 6 yards. So they took where the bear's kill zone was, and back at the woods line, 120 yards back, they put the steel target. So it was a really neat use of props, and that's what we consider them in 3 guns, just props. But it's a little different than just engaging steel targets. And you had to get, like I said, I think the position I shot from, I had to shoot a bear, a boar, and a coyote with that 450 Bushmaster. So
nice.
You get up to there, and you're looking at all these different animals, and you're like, well, where was the coyote? I don't, was it to the left or was it to the right? Of course, it's a team match, so your teammates are yelling at you, coyote, 11 o'clock.
Nice. See, I like that kind of creativity in targets too, where you're, it's something different than just shooting a MGM flasher,
Oh yeah. It just breaks up the traditional monotony. And when you're using these kind of guns, you want to be shooting something a little different than the regular old 3-gun target. So.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
And then also part of the venue, it was hot. It's Kentucky. It's supposed to be. But Wendy Noble, who is Nick's wife, and their daughter Natalie drove around all day, both Friday and Saturday, with a cooler in the back of their vehicle with towels that had been chilled in water and ice. And they'd pull up to the stage and say, anybody want a cold towel? So, it's the little things like that, especially, it being Wendy and Natalie Noble, driving around delivering these cold towels. You're like, wow, this is, it's kind of like the family thing I talked about. I can see them doing this at a family reunion. So
yeah, no kidding. I like that. There's times I would have paid for a cold towel, sitting out in the heat.
Oh yeah, yeah, and they weren't even charging. Maybe they should next year, huh?
Yeah, tips at least, right?
Yeah, and then each stage, instead of having just a water jug with plastic cups, they also had those, but then they also had coolers with ice cold Gatorade. So just another little bonus that you traditionally don't see at most matches.
Sure. Yeah, and I don't know if it's you can answer this one from your perspective. I don't know if it's because I'm getting older or what, but there's part of that, like, I just want to suffer less, and things that make me suffer less I appreciate more nowadays.
I believe so. Unless it's on the clock.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point. Like, it's, the contest is on the clock. The contest isn't like, how long can we keep Dave out here in the sun or the rain until he's upset at life, Well,
that's another good reason that you should come next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gatorade and cold towels.
Gatorade and cold towels. That should be the tagline. Industry Choice Awards, Gatorade and cold towels. All right, Brian. So the pre-communication, we covered that a little bit. There was plenty of emails prior to the match.
Yeah. I think the schedule for everything had even been posted on their website for the ICAs and Team Challenge. I don't check it often, so I don't know if it had been up for 1 month or 6 months.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's been posted on the website. And then of course you get to the lodge and you walk in the front door, and registration's off to the right, and there's the glass window in front of you, and they've got all of the squad schedules with the teams posted, and they've got the schedule of where to go, and they've got the map of the property of where the stages are, and it seems like they had a couple things up there that were even irrelevant because they're so good at communicating, but I don't remember what they were now.
That's another thing is I like to know where I'm supposed to be and when, and that sort of thing. And some matches, it seems like the part of the challenge is figuring out where the F you're supposed to go once you get there. And a lot of times you're met with, oh, well, it's on the website. You're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
well, I'll just take my Verizon service from Denver, Colorado, and use my 1X bar roaming data so you don't have to tell me where I need to be.
And hopefully it loads before our time that we're scheduled to start.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm sure that, I guess it's kind of rose-colored glasses or whatever. I've been at Rock so much that I just need to know the time. And I guess that from my perspective, some of that I probably overlooked. Maybe the maps could be a little better, but as well as I know the place, it's not anything that even really crosses my mind.
Right. Well, and that's one of the great things about when we were shooting in Texas with Bethany Harris and Amy Horn is they all knew where I needed to be and when, and all I had to do was just ask one of them.
I love having responsible people on my squad.
I do too. I absolutely do too. It was great. All right, so the staff. What was the staff like?
A good portion of the staff were experienced ROs that you've seen at major matches, and then quite a few of them that RO some of our locals in this area. Mark Roth of Roth Concepts was one of them. It's not very often that you walk up on a stage and it's it's a guy that is so in tuned with our 3-gun segment that he's just there working the match. Joe Niederbach was one of them. He's worked all kinds of matches over the last 5, 6, 7 years, across a lot of the eastern U.S. One of the ROs on the long range stage was a guy named Justin Vidito, who is I think his title is Director of Training at Rockcastle now.
Oh yeah,
and some of his prior experience includes I think he was an instructor at U.S. Army Sniper School, and he was also on the History Channel, the show called Alone, where they dump guys out in the middle of nowhere, and they don't come pick them up until they tap. So. Interesting guy.
Sounds like
he's
fun.
got a lot of experience at a lot of different things, and he was out there RO in the long range stage. So it was a good mix of there were several that I didn't know. I don't know their background, but every stage that we were on, everybody handled the stage well. They ran them on time. They were efficient. Mike Dell, that sung the national anthem at the opening ceremony, he was an RO on one of them. So.
Nice.
It's a good mix of experience.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so tell us about the fun factor, which we usually call the Dave factor, but we'll call it the Bryan factor here.
The Bryan factor here is if you come to this event and you leave behind all your preconceived notions of how a 3-gun match is supposed to be ran and scored, you're going to have a ball. We shot trap. The 5-stand, I think it was, on our last day, and our team score wasn't very good. And so it's the 4 of us standing around like, I'm sorry guys, I should have, that one, the 4-6 report pair, I just should have picked up it. And then, hey, don't worry about it. And the next guy will be like, that was terrible. I'm sorry. Hey, don't worry about it. So it just a lot of fun. You get to do things that we traditionally don't get to do within our type of shooting. The pistol excess stage, I don't think I covered that, but it kind of fits in really well here. You got 10 guns. This is a target array that's 40 yards wide, and there's 70 or 80 pieces of steel out there. And you have 10 guns across the width of this target array. And each gun is loaded with its either its magazine capacity or 10 rounds, whichever is lower. So there's some compacts out there that only have 6 rounds in it. There's some full size that have 10. And it's a relay, and you have to use every gun in order until you can go back and pick up the same gun twice. Are you following?
Oh, I'm following.
So now we're talking about, there's 10 guns up here, and probably 3 of them had I ever shot. And same for some of our teammates. Like, all right, so who's going to go first? And I'm going to go here, and then you're going to be second because that's going to put you on this gun. And then, you're going to go third, not because of the gun you're going to shoot the first time up, but the gun you're going to shoot the second time up. Or
I gotcha.
Maybe I am more confident in my skill of shooting this particular small target that's at this position than you would be. So if you end up getting up here, don't shoot that target. You shoot the big targets off to the left and the right. Or maybe you're shooting the compact gun, so you shoot the poppers. And then I'll shoot from the next position over. I'll shoot this full-size gun with a longer sight radius and higher capacity, and I'll shoot the little targets. And that stage is it's a ball. It would be fun to do with your regular gear too, just to see how much faster you could shoot it. But that would take a lot of the fun out of it.
Sure. Yeah, part of the joy of stage guns is trying to figure out how they work and where they're hitting
or even where
stuff.
they hit. You pick up a gun and you traditionally, I think, at least me, I zero my pistols with a 6 o'clock hold, so I don't cover my intended point of impact. Well, a lot of these guns are 12 o'clock hold, or you might even have to hold right off the top of the target. So you break the first shot, hopefully on the biggest plate. You call it, and you see where it impacted, and you go, oh, wow, that's like 6 inches under where I called it. So I'm going to have to aim, off the top of these plates with this particular gun. And, of course, you go through those 10, and you come back around, and you start using guns for the second time of your choice. And hopefully you remember where it was hitting the first time rather than what gun you used last and where that one impacted.
Yeah. Nice. I like the memory aspect of it. That's a little tough trying to keep all that straight in the head.
Well, and then you end up there's favorites. So that we go through the stage, and the SIG X5 320 was at the very end on the right, and there were a lot of targets grouped in that area. So we go through once, we use it, and then when you go back through, you can use any gun you want as long as you don't use the same gun twice in a row. So somebody goes back and picks up the X5, shoots it again, lays it down, tags. That guy goes back up, shoots something else, comes back, tags. Well, that guy goes back to the X5 again. He picks it up, and as he's picking it up, Vought goes, "There's no more bullets for that one. You're going to have to get something else." So, at that point, well, crap. So he has to lay it back down, move down, find something else that he can shoot back in this corner with. And
on the clock.
It is. It's all on the clock. Luckily, we didn't run out of ammo, because if you run out of ammo, then any targets left are penalties.
Wow.
Just a lot of fun. We shot some Center Fire, I think is the manufacturer on it. It's a frangible designed for shooting steel targets really close.
Yeah, I saw that.
And with that gun, it was a Springfield XD with that Center Fire ammo. The targets for it, the closest target, I literally could have punched out just a little more with the gun and dinged it with the muzzle. It was that close.
Oh, weird.
And I'm the first shooter. I run up, I grab it, I load it, I run one in the chamber. I'm pushing the gun out as I'm getting a firing grip with both hands. And I'm looking at this target it's from my head, my face to this target is like maybe 3 feet. And I'm thinking, I sure hope this doesn't hurt. And I crack one off, and there's nothing. You don't feel any dust or blast or nothing coming back at you.
Weird.
And then there's 5 more that are also really, really close. So you just run through them, no problem. But it would, that's something, again, I've never bought frangible ammo. I've never had a reason to shoot a steel target that close. So interesting to do something that otherwise I wouldn't have had the opportunity.
Yeah, or you probably never even would have thought to do that either.
Right. I may have to buy some frangible ammo now.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, so any funny things that happened at the match?
Oh, probably should have prepared better for this question. There were a lot of really good times. Like I said, Ben that shot on our team, he hadn't been in the game for a couple years, and him and I we and Vaught would actually room together at some of the old Pro Series matches, back like the 13, 14 or somewhere in there, that time frame. And just hadn't seen him much lately. And he came up and he just had a ball. And a lot of that was just catching up with him was a lot of fun. He's kind of a 0 to 100 and back to 0 in 0.7 second kind of guy. And he was yelling at me on one of the stages. We were arguing on the clock about the difference between an activator and a mover. And he was right. I'll give him that. But under the circumstances, it should have been really obvious what I was talking about. And it wasn't. So I've got that one on video too. Yeah, he's yelling and cussing, and I think his final tirade to me, he calls me a goober, and and at that point the target's neutralized and we move on to the next one and everything's cool. But
awesome, back to 0.
Yep. But it's if you can not overlook, if you can not associate this with what we're used to as far as scoring goes. I mean, this is as fun as, we laughed harder probably than anybody that shot our team match back in June. I mean, it's just such an enjoyable format, and without the scores, I mean, there's things that we should have done better, and there were stage plans we could have prepared a little better, but some of it's just like, hey, we're going to give it a good effort, and we'll never really know how we did or not. So
yeah,
you can either let it hang out, or you can dial it back a little bit and kind of play it safe, or anywhere in between. So
I hear you qualifying the match a lot, and like you have to take it for what it is, put it aside. But if your thing is like going out and crushing, hopes and dreams on a 3-gun match, and then walking home with the best prize and like all the likes you get on Facebook, you're probably not going to come shoot this match, right?
You should probably stay home. Yeah, find something else to do.
But if you maybe have one or two friends,
you see people compare a lot of times. They say, well, I finished at whatever place, or I finished better than this guy who's beat me at the last 3. And you don't ever, unless you come in first, second, or third, you don't know where you're at. So, and even with the team things that were either cumulative, like the sporting clays, or all, those were, I think, cumulative. I mean, you can obviously, just because you're just finished and how many clays that you got and how many that your teammates got. I mean, you can compare and rib or ride or heckle or whatever you want to do about those scores. But yeah, if that's your thing, I mean, you shouldn't come. I think it's important for everybody to know that up front, because that's not what this match is about.
Yeah. So if your thing is networking, teamwork, good times, from what it sounds like, those seem like to be quite up the alley of the competitor that's there.
I think so. This is kind of like a shooting vacation.
Oh, okay. Good way to describe it.
A vacation. I don't know. Maybe people vacation different than me. Vacation for me, I don't take anything too serious. I go and I may sit by the pool a while, and if I get tired of doing that, I may sit by the ocean a while, and if I get tired of doing that, I may take a walk. And I mean, this is just it was kind of laid back. I mean, when the clock goes off, the timer goes off, nothing's really laid back, because you want to do your best even if you don't know how it's going to be scored. But
right.
But yeah, outside of that, it's just the networking aspect of it. There's not any other thing out there that I'm aware of anyway that has this kind of format of multiple disciplines that are all scored together. Who knows? Maybe this is the kind of format that if the interest of the shooters showed for it to be a traditional scored match, wouldn't be unpopular for somebody to put one on like that. But that's not what this event's about. And I think the industry involvement with it is where most of that's coming from.
Right. Makes sense. All right. Well, Bryan, sounds like a fun match. Sounds like I did miss a good time, but hopefully get to make it around next year. Check it out.
Yeah, I did not win any of the guns that they gave away random from the industry choice evaluations. So if you dropped anything and scratched it, I'm not going to hold that against you, Dave.
I won't tell you what I dropped and scratched.
I know last year when I was part of the evaluators, I was not necessarily real careful with anything.
Yeah. There was not enough time to really be careful with a lot of stuff because it was a mad rush to get everything done for sure.
Yes, it was.
So and even more so if you're just writing everything by hand. But
that was the pain of it.
Yeah, well, luckily when I guess we already talked about this, so I can probably say it again. Practice Score was involved this year, and Russell Armstrong, who's a super, super intelligent dude and very passionate about what he does, saw a lot of room for improvement. So next year, hopefully it'll go by, much quicker and more rounds can be sent downrange.
Yeah, and Russell actually was able to come to the match. Him and Benjamin, who's one of the Practice Score marketing guys, came to the match and shot.
Yeah,
they shot with DJ Petro and a couple other local shooters. So, Russell, we shot on their squad, and Russell and Benjamin from Practice Score, they had a great time.
Gotcha. Yeah, they're good people. I've been communicating with those guys and in some other stuff, and just can't say enough about how helpful to the sport they are. So good to see them involved.
Yes, they are. Yeah, they're good people.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for this match recon, man. Special Field Correspondent Bryan Ray.
Well, sorry if it was a little long-winded, but this is different enough from most everything else out there that it's hard to cover in just 45 minutes or an hour.
Yeah, it's funny with the match recon. I initially thought that I'd probably do these in like 30 minutes. They'd just be like little 30-minute spiels. But then I found that when you do it with someone who was not there, there's usually follow-up questions and you have to explain a lot of things. And
like tobacco.
Tobacco, exactly. Like I had no clue. And I've also found that if you don't mention that it was long-winded, most people don't notice that it was long-winded.
What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. No, Brian, this is good times, man. Thank you so much for the time you put into this and in filling out the recon sheet, and for your time for sitting here and chatting about it, man. Thanks, dude. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, Dave. You coming to Pro-Am at Rock?
Yeah, I am.
Good. We'll catch up then.
Yeah, I'll see you in a couple weeks, man.
All right. Take care.
If you are finished, unload, show clear.